Question 187. Which of the below options cannot be used to upload archives to Amazon Glacier? And the options are A. AWS Glacier API, B. AWS Console, C. AWS Glacier SDK, D. AWS S3 Lifecycle Policies. And the correct answer is option B. AWS Console. Explanation. Note that the AWS Console cannot be used to upload data onto Glacier. The console can only be used to create a Glacier vault, which can be used to upload the data. Option A. AWS Glacier API. AWS Glacier is a storage service optimized for infrequently used data or cold data. This option used for programmatically access Glacier and work with it. Due to this reason, this option is incorrect. Option C. AWS Glacier SDK. SDK, that is Software Development Kit, is used to develop applications for Amazon S3 Glacier. It provides libraries that map to the underlying REST API and provide objects that you can easily use to construct requests and process responses. Due to this reason, it's not a valid answer to the asked question. Option D. AWS S3 Lifecycle Policies. S3 Lifecycle Policies allow you to automatically review objects within your S3 buckets and have them moved to Glacier or have the objects deleted from S3. Next question. Your company is planning to pay for an AWS support plan. They have the following requirements as far as the support plan goes. Number 1. 24/7 access to cloud support engineers via email, chat and phone. Number 2. Response time of less than 15 minutes for any business critical system faults. Which of the following plans will suffice to keep in mind the above requirement? And the options are A. Basic, B. Developer, C. Business, D. Enterprise. And the correct answer is option D. Enterprise. Explanation. As per the AWS document, there is no critical support available for basic, developer and business plans. Enterprise plan has critical support within 15 minutes. The question mentions less than 15 minutes for critical faults. Hence, the correct answer is enterprise. Next question. Which of the following are features of an edge location? Select 3 options. And the options are A. Distribute content to users, B. Cache popular contents, C. Distribute load across multiple resources, D. Used in conjunction with the CloudFront service. And the correct answer is option A. Distribute content to users, B. Cache popular contents, and option D. Used in conjunction with the CloudFront service. Explanation. Amazon CloudFront employs a global network of edge locations and regional edge caches that cache copies of your content close to your viewers. Amazon CloudFront ensures that end-user requests are served by the closest edge location. Regional edge caches are CloudFront locations that are deployed globally, close to your viewers. They are located between your origin server and the POPs. Global edge locations that serve content directly to viewers. As objects become less popular, individual POPs might remove those objects to make room for more popular content. Option C is incorrect. Edge locations cannot distribute load across multiple resources. This is a load balancer function. Next question. What data storage offers the option for lifecycle policies, which can be used to move objects to archive storage? And the options are A. Amazon S3, B. Amazon Glacier, C. Amazon Storage Gateway, D. Amazon EBS. And the correct answer is option A. Amazon S3. Explanation. Lifecycle configuration enables you to specify the lifecycle management of objects in a bucket. The configuration is a set of one or more rules, where each rule defines an action for Amazon S3 to apply to a group of objects. These actions can be classified as follows. Number 1. Transition actions, in which you define when objects transition to another storage class. For example, you may choose to transition objects to the standard IA. IA for infrequent access, storage class 30 days after creation, or archive objects to the Glacier storage class 1 year after creation. Number 2. expiration actions, in which you specify when the objects expire. Then Amazon S3 deletes the expired objects on your behalf. Options B, C, and D are incorrect. Glacier, Storage Gateway, and EBS doesn't provide lifecycle policy options. Next question. A company wants to host a database on AWS. The company would like to have full control over the underlying infrastructure of the database. What would be the ideal solution? And the options are A. Using the AWS DynamoDB service. B. Using the AWS RDS service. C. Hosting the database on an EC2 instance. D. Using the Amazon Aurora service. And the correct answer is option C. Hosting the database on an EC2 instance. Explanation. If you want a self-managed database, that means you want complete control over the database engine and the underlying infrastructure. In such a case, you need to host the database on an EC2 instance. Options A, B, and D are incorrect. They are AWS managed solutions and the customer will not have access to the underlying infrastructure. Next question. On which of the following resources does Amazon Inspector perform network accessibility checks? And the options are A. Amazon CloudFront, B. Amazon VPN, C. Amazon EC2 instance, D. Amazon VPC. And the correct answer is option C. Amazon EC2 instance. Explanation. Amazon Inspector provides two types of packages. Network Reachability Rules package checks network accessibility checks on Amazon EC2 instance. Host Assessment Rules package checks vulnerabilities on Amazon EC2 instance. Options A, B, and D are incorrect, as Amazon Inspector performs network accessibility checks on Amazon EC2 instance, not an Amazon CloudFront and Amazon VPN or Amazon VPC. Next question. Which of the following services helps to achieve the computing elasticity in AWS? And the options are A. AWS RDS, B. VPC Endpoint, C. AWS EC2 Auto Scaling Group, D. Amazon S3. And the correct answer is option C. AWS EC2 Auto Scaling Group. Explanation. AWS EC2 Auto Scaling Group achieves the computing elasticity by scaling up or down the EC2 instances based on demand. An auto-scaling group contains a collection of Amazon EC2 instances that are treated as a logical grouping for the purposes of automatic scaling and management. An auto-scaling group also enables you to use Amazon EC2 auto-scaling features such as health check replacements and scaling policies. Both maintaining the number of instances in an auto-scaling group and automatic scaling are the core functionality of the Amazon EC2 auto-scaling service. Other options are incorrect. The terminology computing elasticity is associated with EC2 auto-scaling groups. Next question. Your company has asked you to review its AWS cloud deployment and find all the possible vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. Which two tasks are the responsibility of the company? Select two options. And the options are A. Patching virtualization software for hypervisors. B. Patching software on EC2 instances. C. Securing data center perimeters. D. Securing network infrastructure. E. Managing IAM user permissions. And the correct answer is option B. Patching software on EC2 instances. And E. Managing IAM user permissions. Explanation. Your company will need to manage AWS identity and access management user permissions and patch software on Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud instances, as all these pertain to security in the cloud, which is the customer's responsibility as per the AWS shared responsibility model. The other options are related to security of the cloud and so are the responsibility of AWS, not of the customer. In the AWS shared responsibility model, the customers need to control security within the cloud, while AWS controls security of the cloud. AWS secures its data centers, physical servers, and services. The security of the customer's workloads are the responsibility of the customers. To summarize, the following are the responsibility of AWS. Number 1, data center security. 2, virtualization infrastructure. 3. Software and hardware infrastructure. Number 4. Networking infrastructure. 5. Global infrastructure including AWS availability zones, regions, and edge locations. AWS customers are responsible for securing all the data that they create and store in the cloud. This includes Number 1. Patching and configuring operating systems running on EC2 instances. Number 2. Setting up security groups. Number 3. Administering user accounts and permissions. The customer's responsibilities can shift depending on the AWS service that is being used. For example, when using Amazon Relational Database Service, AWS is responsible for providing automated failover, redundancy, backups, and disaster recovery. AWS also performs automated patching of the database engine. In this example, the customer is responsible for the security of the code that is run using AWS Lambda. The customer is also responsible for patching software on EC2 instances. Next question. What kind of strategy does Amazon offer for situations regarding accidental deletion within Amazon S3? And the options are A. Digital signatures, B. Backup replication, C. Versioning, D. Application level encryption. And the correct answer is option C. Versioning. Explanation. Versioning and multi-factor authentication on delete within Amazon Simple Storage Service could be used as a viable strategy for preventing delete actions that are considered accidental. Amazon versioning means that you have multiple versions of an object within the same bucket inside Amazon S3. With versioning, you can retrieve, restore, preserve specific versions of an object. So, whether you accidentally delete the data or experience a server failure, you are able to retrieve your information. When you use MFA, you have the ability to validate or confirm your actions before the actual deletion takes place. Application level encryption is an encryption that occurs at the application level. Data is encrypted through the application, and the only way to read the encrypted data is if you are officially authorized. This will not protect you against accidental deletes. A digital signature is a way to sign a digital document using encryption that involves the use of digital codes. Amazon uses AWS Signature version 4, which uses an access secret key that is then used to create a signing key. This new key or the signing key can only be used within a uniquely identified AWS region. It will not protect you against accidental deletes. Backup replication is an AWS solution geared more towards system, hardware, or infrastructure availability and not for accidental deletion. Next question. Which of the following statements best describe the AWS Personal Health Dashboard? Select two options. And the options are A. A concise representation of the general status of AWS services. B. User-specific view on the availability and performance of AWS services underlying their AWS resources. C. A service that prompts the user with alerts and notifications on AWS schedules activities, pending issues, and planned changes. D. A minute-by-minute update of system outages and service errors on the AWS global infrastructure. E. A rolling log of all service interruptions across the AWS network and records of incidents persistent for a year. And the correct answer is option B. User-specific view on the availability and performance of AWS services underlying their AWS resources. And C. A service that prompts the user with alerts and notifications on AWS scheduled activities, pending issues, and planned changes. Explanation. The Personal Health Dashboard is a tool that shows the status of AWS services running the user-specific resources. It is a graphical representation that sends alerts, notifications of any personal pending issues, planned changes, and scheduled activities. Option A is incorrect. It describes a general overview of the Service Health Dashboard. Option D is incorrect. It describes the Service Health Dashboard. Option E is incorrect. It describes the status history of the Service Health Dashboard. Next question. Your company wants to grant freelance developers temporary access to its AWS resources. Developers would log in with Facebook credentials. Which service is the most appropriate to grant secure access? And the options are A. Create user credentials using identity access management. B. Use Amazon Cognito for web identity federation. C. Create temporary access roles using IAM. D. Use a third-party web ID federated access provider. And the correct answer is option B. Use Amazon Cognito for web identity federation. Explanation. Amazon Cognito Web Identity Federation service acts as a broker that allows authenticated users to access AWS resources. After successful authentication on platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, or Google Mail, users receive temporary authentication code from Amazon Cognito, thereby gain temporary access. Option A is incorrect. The access required is temporary and not directly onto the AWS environment. Identity access management user will be granted access directly using AWS specified credentials. Option C is incorrect. The IAM user credential will not authenticate on Facebook. They are confined to logging onto the AWS environment. Option D is incorrect. There is no need to take a third-party web ID from federated access providers since Amazon has the Cognito service to perform that function. Next question. Your company is looking to store objects to a reliable storage system. The objects must be downloadable via a URL. Which storage option would you choose? And the options are A. Amazon S3, B. Amazon Glacier, C. Amazon Storage Gateway, D. Amazon EBS. And the correct answer is option A. Amazon S3. Explanation. Amazon S3 is the perfect storage option. It also provides the facility of assigning a URL to each object which can be used to download the object. Option B is incorrect. Glacier is for archival and long-term storage. Option C is incorrect. AWS Storage Gateway is a hybrid cloud storage service that gives you on-premises access to virtually unlimited cloud storage. Option D is incorrect. This question is to check the user understanding of AWS S3 service terminology and use cases. Objects are stored in S3 and should be downloadable via a URL. It's not possible with EBS. Next question. You are planning to host a database on an EC2 instance for at least a year. Which option is the least expensive? And the options are A. Spot instances, B. On demand, C. No upfront cost reserved, D. Partial upfront cost reserved. And the correct answer is option D. Partial upfront cost reserved. Explanation. If the database is going to be used for a minimum of 1 year at least, it is better to get reserved instances. You can save on cost if you use partial upfront options. Option A is incorrect. Spot instances can be terminated with fluctuations in market prices, unless the question specifies a use case where high availability is not a requirement. This cannot be assumed. Option B is incorrect. On demand is not the most cost-efficient solution. Option C is incorrect. No upfront payment is required. However, it's a costlier option than partial or all upfront payment. Next question. As part of an organization's information system audit, an administrator must provide security and compliance reports and online service agreements between the organization and Amazon Web Services. Which service can be used to acquire this information? And the options are A. AWS Artifact, B. AWS Resource Center, C. AWS Service Catalog, D. AWS Directory Service. And the correct answer is option A. AWS Artifact. Explanation. AWS Artifact is a comprehensive resource center to have access to the AWS auditor-issued reports and security and compliance documentation from several renowned independent standard organizations. Option B is incorrect. AWS Resource Center is a repository of tutorials, white papers, digital training, and project use cases that aid in the learning the core concepts of Amazon Web Services. Option C is incorrect. AWS Service Catalog allows organizations to create and save their own IT service catalogs for further use, but they have to be approved by AWS. IT service catalogs can be multi-tiered application architectures. Option D is incorrect. AWS Directory Service is an AWS tool that provides multiple ways to use Amazon Cloud Directory and Microsoft Active Directory with other AWS services. Next question. The administrator of the organization has to set access permissions for users in a newly created department. Given that they have various roles and access needs, what is the best approach to granting access to them? And the options are A. All users should be able to access the most common resources and privileges on the system. B. Initially, all users should be granted the same permissions and then more can be granted upon request. C. Administrators should grant all users the least privilege and add more privileges only to those who need them. D. Whenever a task needs to be executed, users should be granted temporary access. And the correct answer is option C. Administrators should grant all users the least privilege and add more privileges only to those who need them. Explanation. The best practice for AWS Identity Access Management is to grant the least amount of permissions on the system only to execute the required task of the user's role. Additional permissions can be granted per user according to the task they wish to perform on the system. Option A is incorrect. Providing users with access to most common resources exposes them to security vulnerabilities, especially when they have access to resources they don't need. Option B is incorrect. Granting users the same privileges on the system means other users might get access to resources they don't need to carry out their job. This presents a security risk. Option D is incorrect. Creating temporary access for internal staff will be a hassle for the administrator. It is not an extensible model. Thank you for watching this video. Buy our AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner CLF-C01 premium questions with 50% off. Check link in the description.